It is the Final Word Daily with Adam Collins and Jeff Lemon here at the Kotla Stadium in New Delhi. We're in the middle of an absorbing test match and we are here for Visit Victoria, Visit Melbourne. You'll hear more about them later in the show. Jeff, try and tell us about that second day in 30 seconds. There was plenty to get through.
India started none down and then Nathan Lyon rolled through the wickets. 4 of the top order, bang, 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 bang. Todd Murphy comes in and gets Jadeja. Kuhneman gets Kohli. KS Barrett completes Lyons 5 for their 7 for 137. And then Ashwin and Axar Patel had 114. They get within one run of Australia's total, 262 versus 263. Khawaja's out early and then Australia go nuts. Head and Labuschagne 1 for 61 in no time at all. This game's in fast forward and it's a lot of fun.
We probably get 5, if we're lucky, test matches per year which feel this imbalance at the completion of the first innings, and that's added to by what Travis Head and Marnus Labuschagne have done before the close of play. They've added 38 from 37 balls. Head's there on 39 and Labuschagne's there on about 18 or 19 or something like that. They're going at better than a run of ball together.
And I neglected to mention that Head's opening the batting because David Warner's been subbed out of the test match with a concussion, but also a broken arm, probably, we think.
It's incredible,
and Matthew Renshaw's been subbed in, but Head's gone up to open the batting and Renshaw will be in the middle order.
There is so much to get through. We like to keep this to about 15-20 minutes. Good luck with us today. We'll try. Right, so let's just say that the Warner omission on paper is a huge one. He averages 45 in Test cricket. He's made 25 Test centuries. He's been playing for a dozen years. But balance of the side, if Travis Head walking out to bat can do what he did this evening for a session tomorrow, they might be out of reach of India. That's simply the way that Travis Head bats. It's and you know, they spend a lot of time with these buzzwords about playing positively, about being resourceful, about being brave, intent, all that after their loss at Nagpur. Well, that is summed up so well by the way that Head's gone about it there. Getting to the pitch of the ball where at all possible, using the depth of the crease when defending, but most of all, trying to score every time there's an opportunity to score, never getting caught on the crease. So it was an exhilarating way to finish. Marnus Labuschagne hit 2 thumping sweep shots across the line to the rope as well.
And that steer behind point. So three fours in and over from Jadeja. Head was getting to the pitch of the ball. I mean, they had a couple of defensive players out as well. They had a long off and a deep point, and he was threading them and going through deep extra cover and all the rest of it, finding his way to the rope. I mean, I thought after the Ashwin and Axar Patel partnership, I just thought that Australia would be deflated and they would probably fall to bits. And when Khawaja goes early, you think that's likely to happen. But this has said that maybe there's a chance it'll go the other way, or maybe they'll fall in a pile tomorrow morning. It's so hard to
predict. I mean, the Axar-Ashwin partnership I thought would still be going when we were recording this podcast. It reached 114 now. At one stage, 139 for 7. They added 40 runs by tee at 4 or 5 and over. It was an excellent exercise in putting pressure straight back on. It was a counter-attack. Then the half an hour after tee, they effectively shut up shop. It was all about absorbing the pressure that was inevitably going to come from Australia, getting to about the 70 over mark and then going for it against the soft ball. We saw yesterday that runs were easier to come by between overs, roughly 60 to 80 or give or take. And that was the game plan, and it worked so well. So Axar was able to counter-attack for the second time in a row. Well, he didn't top score it at Nagpur. He made 84 there, 74 here, his third half century at Test level there with Ashwin, who you can just tell
and a much
relished.
Different approach this time, because in Nagpur he defended a lot and attacked a little bit later on. This time, relatively early on, he said, I'm going to go after Kuhneman, he's on debut. I'm going to go after Murphy once in a while. I'm going to attack judiciously, but attack regularly.
Yeah, and they knew that Nathan Lyon was bowling beautifully down the other end. Nathan Lyon, we haven't even mentioned the fact that he took his 22nd 5-wicket haul in Test cricket. I mean, there was the flurry of wickets, but completing the fifer in the middle session. And I mean, we're going to chop and change a bit here through the podcast because just so much happened. But Lyon,
let's wind back. Let's go back to the start.
Let's do that
with Lyon, because India's starting the day at none down. That's when I was saying yesterday on the show, I had 550 vibes about India. You so often see the touring team struggle for runs, and then the home team say, it's tricky to bat here, but we know how to do it.
Sure.
We're going to get through the tricky periods, and then we're going to make a massive score. And they weren't able to do that because Lyon did what Ashwin did, bowl around the wicket, straighten it down the line, and get the ball to skid on at times. Made it really difficult. Gets KL Rahul LBW early. The thing the Australians did really badly was burn their reviews very, very quickly. So they had one review left when Lyon nails Pujara plumb, LB. But Pujara's taken a step down. The Australians aren't too sure. It's given not out. They don't review it. It's shown to be hitting middle stump. They're disconsolate. and then he bowls Rohit Sharma a couple of minutes later, and then gets Pujara LBW for a duck anyway.
There's a lot to like about this.
Bonus.
So before today, Lyon had bowled 1,148 balls at Chiteshwar Pujara, playing his 100th Test match, more than any other batter he's come up against in Test cricket. That was a factoid that was on Cricinfo that I picked up during the week in my prep for this Test match. And all the times these adversaries have come up against each other, for all of the appeals, Nathan Lyon on his hands and knees pleading with the umpire, only one leg before. Ooh. Only one leg before. Ooh. And to think that he had him out leg before twice on 0 today, first of which was dancing at line, which he's done for a decade, more than a decade. Well, I suppose more, would have been more, back in 11-12. He has been dancing at line and kicking balls away forever. But this spun sharply. He was already up and about, as you say, got KL Rahul from round the wicket. Then Rohit Sharma through the gate, but they were two pretty lousy reviews in the first half an hour. Kuhnemann, you can kind of get why they wanted to back in the young lad by giving him an opportunity to get a wicket on referral, given it was his first Test match and all the rest of it. The second one was a bad one, the inside edge off the thigh pad, but it was missing the edge by 3 or 4 inches. Yeah,
I mean, so the edge balloons up to slip, and I reckon my theory is teams get more excited when it comes off the body to slip than any other kind of. It must have hit something. It must have hit something. It didn't hit anything. They went for that one.
Yeah, the two noises did them in, didn't it? It was
so there was the short leg one too. So they end up burning 2 of them on catches, and that's the thing. If you're gambling with reviews, if you gamble on LBs, then you can get an umpire's call and keep the review. If it's a catch, it's black and white. It's either wrong or right, and so you are more likely to lose it in that situation.
Yeah, so that informed why they weren't willing to go upstairs the first time, which made it all the more gutsy from Cummins to go the second time, because bat and ball and pad were all very close together, much as it was with Kohli later in the day, which I'm sure we'll come to. But Cummins going upstairs and backing Lyon at that juncture to use the review against Pujara. They blow that. I was on comms at the time. I'm like, if this hit the edge first, they've got no reviews and India are 1 down and they're in strife, because we know how that can backfire on a fielding side, especially in this part of the world. If you've got no referrals, I think you said to me at one point, there will be, at some stage today, a wicket that they don't get because they don't have a review. It didn't quite play out that way in the end, but actually, it sort of did, but we'll come back to that later.
Right.
But yeah, the Pujara wicket was crucial. 100th Test, misses out, gets a duck. And then comes Kohli.
Then he gets Shreyas Iyer.
Oh yeah, Shreyas Iyer, of course.
The Peter Hanscom catch at short leg.
Wow.
Where there actually was some ball on it, and Hanscom goes flying away to his right.
What a catch!
It's a juggle. It's a slap it around a bit. It's a do the juggling chef kind of deal, the teppanyaki stuff. Throw the egg up in the air, slice it with a little spatula. It lands on the hot plate. It's perfectly fried. Oh, delicious! And he managed to hang on to it somehow. And then Lyons picked up 4, so that felt significant given that Lyons struggled in Nagpur, bowled well at times, created chances at times they weren't taken. He goes 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you get Murphy coming in with a bit of influence. Then you get Kuhnemann coming in. So Murphy gets Jadeja, and that felt hugely significant given what Jadeja did in Nagpur, and then Kuhnemann getting Kohli, and that one goes upstairs as well because Kohli reviews it because it's given out on the field. I mean, fair play to Nitin Menon if you're a home umpire and you're having to give Virat Kohli out on a tight decision as to whether it was bat first or pad first. The third umpire's replays said it was probably pad. It was basically at the same time, so it was hard to be completely conclusive.
Yeah, and we may as well talk about that because I'm sure there'll be a lot of criticism from anyone that says it was out. There was a poll on Star, and probably jumping ahead of myself with Hall of Fame here at T, which said was Kohli correctly given out or wrong? I think it says was he. There was more pejorative language in that, and at one stage it was 100% said not out, which I quite enjoyed.
Sorry, guys.
But the thing was up.
It was pad first.
Well, I think it was pad first. Yeah, the reason I think that is because the last angle that Richard Illingworth took a look at was kind of on the 45-degree angle, and that really did give the impression it was pad first. Until that point, it was at best inconclusive. And by the way, had it been inconclusive, it still should go the way of the decision on the field. It needs to be overwhelming, well not overwhelming, it needs to be conclusive evidence.
Right.
And there was no conclusive evidence. And others will say, I've had the MCC law thrust upon me on Twitter a number of times saying if ball hits pad and bat concurrently, it's bat first. But there was it wasn't conclusive.
That's when you're making the initial decision. But if the initial decision is that it's hit pad first, then it's hit pad first.
But either way, I guess the point here is that if it was conclusively bat first or hitting simultaneously on the camera angles, he would have been given not out. But that wasn't to be. And I understand the frustration. He was on 44 at the time. He was building really well. It felt like the kind of day that Kohli would relish, with the top order falling earlier in the day. He had the chance to do something special. Hasn't made a test ton since they popped up that pavilion over there after the local boy in 2019.
He made 2 just after that, but including a double, but let's not,
Oh, right, I thought that was
It was the same year. It was around about the same time. He made
I've
2 in a couple of months.
Misinformed.
He made 2 in a couple of months afterwards, but basically since that year, he then hasn't.
November 19 when he made that 100 under lights at Calcutta. There's not been.
Sure.
So I felt like that was going to be today. But yeah, Ravinder Jadeja and Kohli and KS Bharat to a top edge, falling in the space of 4 overs. It felt like the collapse was genuinely on. Like Australia could end up with a lead of like 100 plus, 7 for 139, which is when the big partnership came together. So 2 collapses, but in between that, some great batting.
And to finish off on the Kohli one, it's then umpires call on leg stump, which only aggrieves people more. But look, it seemed to us like it hit the pad first and it was going on to hit leg stump probably, so that seems good enough. And if you go up against Richard Illingworth, he can fire you because he has a license to ill. That's how he does things. KS Bharat, the top edge sweep, and that's Lyon's 5 for, and that's his 100th wicket against India as well, by the way.
After Ashwin did it yesterday, 100 wickets against Australia. The sort of cat and mouse between that pair. Lyon pulls ahead of Ashwin by whatever, I think he was 1 in front of Ashwin when he started today.
It was 260 v 261, and now he's up to 266, Lyon. After he took the 7 for in Delhi here in 2013. Next time back, he's taken 5 for. And so, India looked in all sorts. It's 4 for 137, sorry, 7 for 139.
Yep.
And that's when Axar, Patel and Ravichandran and Ashwin come together. And, it just felt like that was going to happen. Ashwin's been so stubborn with the bat lately. Axar was so good in Nagpur. It felt like at some point there's going to be a partnership. And it hasn't been the players before this, so it's going to be these 2. And it was. And like you said, Axar Patel counter-attacked. Ashwin basically just provided the supporting foil, defended quite a bit, knocked the ball around, worked the strike here and there. And Axar Patel was the one to take the calculated risks and hit over the top, especially against Kuhnemann.
Now, I should know what happened to Ravichandran and Ashwin. I know it was a great catch.
It was Cummins with the new ball.
And let me tell you why I don't know what happened. So I went for a walk around the stadium, which I might come back to in the Hall of Fame in a couple of moments. But I was behind the grandstand. It's a very tough ground to get around. I spent a lot of time outside of the seating bowl. Heard the roar go up, saw the wicket, went back on all the social media feeds. The official partners only provide social media clips when Indian batsmen do well. They don't post the wickets.
Oh.
So I couldn't actually see how Renshaw snaffled Ashwin to break the partnership.
Helpful.
I gather it was a beauty though.
Okay, well it was. Well, I'll frame it this way, right? There's a point around about 60 overs. You're thinking, God, do Australia need to wait for a new ball because the ball was so soft it was doing nothing.
Yeah.
And it was like they don't want to bowl another 20 overs here, but they ended up getting into the 70s in terms of the overs. It was like, okay, they are going to have to get to the new ball. Cummins brought himself on with 4 overs to go before the new ball. He was basically using himself as the holding bowler so that he could bring his spinners on when they were fresh, or so it seemed. And he bowls 1 maiden over to Axar Patel, and then he bowls another over that just gets clubbed all over the joint. Boundary square, boundary to the leg side, and Axar Patel is just lining everything up. Why not? And then Cummins gets the new ball in hand, and a couple of deliveries in. He's already hit Ashwin on the shoulder with a short one with the old ball that went into the cordon. Smith caught it. There was no bat on it. And then he gets the one that comes up. Ashwin plays across, not really a cross-batted shot, but more a sort of vertical bat flick away. But it was like he hadn't adjusted to the new ball, and it's out towards square leg, and Renshaw just goes flying across and takes it mid-air. So really well done by him. And then they get Axar Patel a moment later when he tries to smash Murphy and ends up skying one up in the air. And he's it was more flat. It was drilled at Cummins at mid-on, who took a ridiculous catch himself. I don't think he could really see it. He basically just went and the ball ended up in his hands somehow. Look, and Kuhnemann gets a second wicket when he goes through Mohammad Shami to wrap things up. So the evenness, I think it's happened 11 times in Test history that the teams have been 1 run apart on the first innings.
I like it. I think it's 3 times they've been even.
Yeah.
We were at one of those at Lords in 2019 between Australia and England. I remember that was even.
Yeah, it was like 250, something like that.
Sounds about right. So again, it speaks to what we said off the top, that this test, there aren't 4 results available, because they won't be drawing it. This test will be over inside 4 days, but
over inside 3 days.
But they could tie it. I'm going to hang that out there now. That there was a tie between these teams back in 1986 at Chennai, of course, and we've got Ravi Shastri as part of our commentary team who was playing that day. I've seen Sonny Gavaskis here as well. He would have been playing too. So dare to dream to go that far.
Now,
next up, Jeff.
Well, let's go to the batting bit as well, because we have to get Shreyas Iyer's catch in there a bit. So
what a catch!
Usman Khawaja, it seemed a little bit desperate. He played this big slog across the line to Jadeja out to deep mid-wicket, which the boundary riders just couldn't see. It was
KL Rahul was blinded by it.
It was like, what's happening? Where's it gone? Anyway, he wouldn't have been able to stop it or catch it, but it went for 4. And the very next ball, Khawaja goes down on one knee, lap sweep, fully off the face, and it just bullets at Shreyas Iyer at leg slip. And he somehow manages to, I don't think he could have seen the ball, but he just got his hands up and then was falling over and managed to hang on to it on the way down. Like, as I said on air at the time, get ready for a broken collarbone. It was just going to hurt him if he didn't catch it. But he did manage to hang on to it, and that's the point where you go, oh God, Australia's going to be 4 down at the close, and it'll be a result that's going to slip away. But then Travis Head's like, oh well, I'm just going to whack everything, and Ravichandran comes in, as we said at the start, that straight sweep, as Bharat likes to call it, that he plays, where he gets down low and really powers it through mid-wicket. Played that, played square behind point. I mean, wickets will fall, and they might fall early tomorrow, but it's just a matter of whether they can keep the run scoring going. And you'd think 180 ahead could be a winning lead.
I think it's a race to 200 here. Like, I reckon if Australia can bat throughout the first session, they'll probably be on 200 odd. Maybe not quite that far, but if Head's in, they will be, that's for sure. Indeed, if Ravichandran is the intent he's showing, and I reckon they kind of know that it's only going to get harder to bat. And look, let's just talk about Head and being elevated to open for a sec, shall we? We all assumed Renshaw as the concussion sub for Warner would get that gig. Like, this is natural, tides of time progression thing where Renshaw is probably going to replace Warner in the fullness of time. Maybe we've misread this altogether, and Head has been considered to be the Warner successor, or alternatively, maybe they've simply seen the conditions out here, thought against the new ball, Head given a little bit of licence to attack, to use his feet before the close of play. I'm not saying he was a Nighthawk like what we're seeing with Stuart Broad, but a little bit of like strategic, right, you are the guy most likely to bust open this third innings, have a crack.
I thought it was more like, you're going to get 2 overs of pace bowling from Mohammad Shami before they go back to spin. And if there's a way to get Travis Head into an innings, you'd rather him face pace. Yes, he got out to pace bowling in the first innings, but nonetheless, you'd rather him not have spin at both ends when he comes in, and that was the way to best use him, and to push back on India. And so they did, like I said, at that stage of the innings, I thought India had the ascendancy, because Australia would have been so disappointed. You've got them 7 down for under 140. There's the chance to take a lead of over 100. You blow it, your lead's gone, and then you're still able to summon the reserves to hit back. So it's at a thrilling position. Both teams are well in it, and who knows what's going to happen on day 3.
Just lastly on Head, this could be like a career-defining innings. If he can bat all the way through and post 3 figures on a surface that is thoroughly foreign to him in the way that he plays. I mean, we're a long way from that juncture.
I don't think anyone's posting 3 figures.
Yeah, improbable as it is, but if he can keep playing the way he did tonight, then that's a possibility. Even if he gets an 80 odd. We said last night Khawaja's 80 might be worth 140. Well, so it would be if Head can keep going. It could define him, because his average in Asia before this match was, I think, 24. He averaged 15 last year in those 5 test matches in Pakistan and Sri Lanka, only making 91 runs across 5 test matches. The view had been formed, and we saw that last week when he was left out, that this guy can't play against a spinning ball. Well, if he keeps using his feet the way that he did tonight, and he smashed Ashwin back over his head for 6 when he overpitched, and any time seemingly one of the spinners overpitched, he was happy to drive them through the covers and all the rest of it. This could be a really important turning point in his career, so fascinated to see how that plays out tomorrow.
The Final Word Hall of Fame, brought to you by Visit Melbourne. You can plan your trip at visitmelbourne.com. I want to talk today very briefly about the Great Ocean Road. They don't call it the Bad Ocean Road. They don't call it the Medium Ocean Road. It is the Great Ocean Road for a reason. You go to Melbourne and you can drive down the coast of Victoria and you can get on the Great Ocean Road, and it's one of the great touring roads. And if you're from, say, the part of the world that we're in, we've driven around Indian cities quite a bit. The traffic is very intense. It's not very pleasant. I can't imagine being a cab driver in this part of the world would be a very stressful occupation. You're always in traffic. You get on the Great Ocean Road and it's just open, it's smooth. You just roll on through the hills for as long as you want. You stop at a nice beach. You swim in the ocean very carefully, because some people it doesn't end up too well. But it's a beautiful part of the world, and it's within a couple of hours of Melbourne. Yeah,
the long and windy road, the Great Ocean Road, which was made by war veterans when they returned from battle. They were commissioned to build that road, so there's that link to history as well. I lived in Warrnambool as a younger lad for a time. That's kind of at the end of the Great Ocean Road if you go that way. So I can only recommend it. We filmed the World Cup show at Lyon last year.
Yep.
And we filmed...
And at Warrnambool.
And at Torquay.
Yes, Torquay. Many places on the Great Ocean Road.
So have a look at those in the back catalogue if you want to get a better feel for it. But visit Melbourne, visit Victoria, get to Melbourne, then go throughout Victoria. It could not be a better place to spend your holiday.
Hall of Fame. I pretty much used mine already, but I loved the statistical confluence. I mean, the rarity, and I don't think this could ever have happened before. Ravichandran Ashwin, 100 wickets against Australia in this test match. Nathan Lyon, 100 wickets against India in this test match. I like stats, and that is just a beautiful coming together. A twinning, if you will. Like one of those disgusting things at weddings where like there's a jar of sand of one colour and a jar of sand of the other colour, and then they mix them together and they're like, oh, we're bonded for life. Gross, be your own person, grow up. But it was nice that Ashwin and Lyon came together.
Yeah, well for me, it was, I mentioned I walked around the ground earlier today. At one stage, Pat Cummins went up for a leg before shout. There's some...
This is Hall of Fame. Somebody's got a piano organ out, it seems. Play Take Me Out to the Ball Game.
There was a shout for leg before, and of course Australia had burnt their reviews, and the crowd all started chanting, ha ha ha, DRS, DRS, giving it to Cummins, which I thought was quite good. Another one for me was when the over could not be completed at the far end of the ground to where we are at the moment because the sight screen sheet had been pulled up prematurely, but the ground staff didn't realise, and they kept pulling it all the way up to reveal that, well, the Monash University advertising site in Melbourne, where I went to uni, as it happens. But then they realised belatedly, and they had to drop the sheet again, and it all took about 2 minutes unnecessarily, and is probably contributing to why they were one over short on the day today.
Yes, never drop the sheet too early. I've got one more, which is that somebody tweeted me to ask about Kohli getting out to players on debut and who had been out to the most players on debut. And I was like, well, by volume of cricket played, it's probably got to be Tendulkar, but we know that it happened a lot. And so I had some stuff in my notes and I went back and did some checking and sent back a list of every player who got Tendulkar out on debut. And I can't remember the name of my correspondent, I'm afraid, but he was like, I'm listening to you on the radio right now. How are you sending stats to random people on Twitter? And I was like, well, if you send me an obscure request for a stat, I will probably be interested enough to find it out. I wasn't on air while I was doing it, but I was in between spots.
So it's the 10th time that Kohli's been dismissed by a debutant. I think it was 10 from
10 out of 25
as well, wasn't it?
No, 18 for Tendulkar.
18, sorry.
18 that I could find. There might be more.
Well, 2 in 2 weeks. It's been Todd Murphy and Matt Kuhneman today who've both got Kohli at the first time of asking.
Yes, indeed. And so that leaves us having to come back for day 3, where this test match may end. Who knows? Or it may go to day 4.
I think that might be the Indian team leaving, judging by the roar behind the pavilion there.
Yeah, okay.
It must be their bus going out.
Right, either that or they're, watching highlights from a Champions Trophy final or something like that. Right, this has been the Final Word Daily. Thanks to Visit Victoria for supporting the show. If you want to support the show as well as a viewer, go to patreon.com/thefinalword. Or just tell people about the show. If you're watching on the video, share it around, post some links, tell your friends. There are 2 idiots on the internet who talk about the cricket and it's fun. Jeff Lemon, Adam Collins, we'll be back with you from Delhi on day 3. See you then.
Good night.